Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's guest on Better Than I Found It is former Oklahoma State All-American and longtime PGA Tour professional Willie Wood. Willie, a former U.S. junior champion and also a Fred Haskins Award winner in college, is one of the 5 members of this year's induction class for the Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame. He'll be receiving that award at a ceremony on November 9th at Oklahoma City Golf and Country Club. And believe it or not, so is yours truly. I'm very excited to be joining Willie in this year's induction class, along with 4-time PGA Tour winner Andrew McGee, 1962 U.S. Amateur champion Labron Harris Jr., and also Oklahoma club professional legend Duffy Martin in this year's class. But this episode focuses strictly on Willie alone. As Mike Holder once put it, Willie Wood was Tiger Woods before Tiger Woods was Tiger Woods. It was a great compliment that Coach Holder paid Willie, but actually Willie was the first dominant player on the American Junior Golf Tour and obviously went on to play a long professional career. In this episode, we talk about his junior career, his college career, and finally about playing in the Bank of Boston with Chichi Rodriguez, and a funny story there, and also playing at Augusta in the Masters. Last time Willie played in the Masters with Arnold Palmer. Willie's truly one of the good guys, and I know they'll enjoy listening to this episode. Okay, Better Than I Found It faithful. Let's all say hello to my special guest today, longtime PGA Tour player Willie Wood. Willie, thanks for joining me on Better Than I Found It today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I go way back. I mean, a long way back to our days when you were at Oklahoma State and I was at Central State. But first of all, I want to say congratulations are in order. I mean, on your upcoming induction into the Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame. That'll be this coming Sunday at Oklahoma City Golf and Country Club.
Thank you. I'm with some very distinguished honorees that night, including
you.
Yeah,
I tell you what.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. You know, I was thinking about this class. Let's talk about this class real quick if we can. Obviously, I think you're one of the headliners, if not the headliner, because of just your history in golf and certainly in Oklahoma and on the tour and around the world. But Andrew McGee won 4 times, the University of Oklahoma, Oklahoma Sooner. I think Andrew was the first guy to ever make a hole-in-one on a par 4 on the PGA Tour. Did you know that?
He sure was. Yeah, at the Phoenix Open, number 17.
Were you there?
I'd already finished my round, but okay. I've heard it. I've heard about it 100 times from him. He's replayed it for me 100 times, and it gets better every time. But
you know, back years ago, they didn't have very many drivable par 4s, so that's the reason it's a modern day thing anyway, right?
Yeah, it sure is, and that's a really good one. When they put the pin over their back left or back right, it's really a cute drivable par 4. It's one of my favorites. I've had it on the green a couple times before, and that back pin it crosses your mind to knock it in the water, because if it starts going away from you about 10 or 12 feet from the hole, and you can put it in the water there. And thank God I never did.
Well, you never missed a putt that I remember. Did you ever miss a putt?
I try not to remember the ones I missed, but yeah, I miss more now than I ever did back when in my day. But things don't quite work the way they used to.
It happens. It happens. Well, Andrew McGee is one of those in the class, along with you and myself, yours truly. I'm in there as a coach, not as a player. Duffy Martin, who is a longtime club professional in the state of Oklahoma, just a pioneer, a very unusual character, was one of my dad's best friends. My dad used to go play his golf courses all the time. Did you ever meet Duffy?
I met him one time, and he's very, very nice, yes. I don't know who's going to do the acceptance for him, but I would imagine it'd be one of his sons.
Yeah, I bet Jeff, who took over at Cedar Valley when Duffy passed away, or literally had been running it for years before that. But Duffy was a legend in Oklahoma golf club professionals. And then finally, Labron Harris Jr., who was an Oklahoma State golfer, won the U.S. Amateur in 1962 at Pinehurst. Honestly, when I was a kid, Labron was sort of a hero of mine because I loved Oklahoma State, and he was still playing the tour, and he had won the U.S. Am. Did you ever meet Labron?
Yeah, he started running the Kemper Open up in Bethesda, Maryland. Um, it was at Congressional back when I started in '84, and that's where I got to know him.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Uh,
was one of the Oklahoma State alums that had a lot to do with the tour. Another being Bob Dixon, who I know you know
yes, yes.
was a PGA Tour guy. But Labron has had two careers, actually three: a playing career, an administrative career on the tour, and then a stamp collecting career,
Oh, all
which
right.
I'm going to find out about a little bit more about when we are down there for the ceremony. But Labron, a legend in Oklahoma, and obviously his dad. Labron Sr., the first coach ever at Oklahoma A&M. So,
Labor Jr., very, very smart man. And I know you heard this. He only made one B in college, and
yep.
it came from his father. It, he had typing with Labor Sr., and Labor Sr. gave him a B. And yeah,
Wow. Wow.
what a nice dad, huh?
Well, that's the thing. People don't even realize it. College golf coaches back in Labron's day taught classes.
God,
He built Lakeside Golf Course in Stillwater and literally was the pro and gave lessons out there forever. When you
yeah.
were a freshman, well, during your years at Oklahoma State, Labron was still there.
He was out there pretty active my freshman and then sophomore year, and it kind of slowed down after that. But he was always out there hitting balls at Lakeside. Loved to hit balls.
Yeah,
And when you get older, you got a lot of time on your hands. He did come to the Big Eight and the Nationals those last 2 years, those my freshman and sophomore year, and then after that he stopped going.
yeah. So if you're saying nationals, you mean Ohio State when you guys won in 1980?
Yes, and then Stanford the
Stanford.
next year.
Perfect, perfect. Well, so the Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame induction class, Willie Wood, Andrew McGee, Duffy Martin, Labron Harris Jr., and Mike McGraw. Really looking forward to that evening. I know you're going to see a bunch of old buddies, and I'm going to see a bunch of old buddies, and it should be a lot of fun. And honestly, I'm really honored to be going in with you, having known you all these years, and then to actually, I did never expect this honor, so I'm really, really thrilled by it.
You deserved it.
Well, same to you. I appreciate it. Well, another thing we have in common other than just kind of our friends in and around the game, whether it be Jeff McMillan or Bob Tway or whomever, is we both grew up the sons of a PGA golf professional.
Yes.
Your dad moved around a bit. My dad was the whole time I was growing up was at the Ponca City Country Club. Talk about that life, and let's see if it kind of matches up with what being the son of a PGA pro was for me.
I found this out not long ago, but my dad was a PE teacher uh, back in the late 50s, and he went to a golf tournament in Brownsville, Texas, and he won the tournament. That was in about 1957, and they said, "Willard, would you like to be the head pro here? We're looking for a pro." And he took the job.
That's how he
So
became a club
that's how he
professional.
became a club pro, which is crazy. What if he'd have finished second? You know, he'd have gone back to his being a PE teacher. Nothing's wrong with PE teachers, but I would not have had uh, the the avenues that later I got. So he moved from Brownsville to Kingsville, and that's where I was born, and then moved on to Houston, and then went to Louisiana, and that's where I learned to play golf at Shreveport Country Club in Lake Charles, Louisiana. But he gave me every opportunity to participate in golf and work on my game, and it was fantastic. Hanging around the country club, I worked, and I'm sure you did some work around there. I worked in the cart barn. I picked up the range. I worked tournaments, for caddy, did all that stuff that a kid does for his father, who's the head pro. So it was a great life.
Well, the one thing about it that I remember, my dad, I mean, the club pro didn't make a ton of money in those days. And so if he could employ a son or a daughter or both,
Yes,
you got a good hand because for one, you had to do a pretty good job because when you went home that night, the
you heard
boss,
about it.
Yeah, you heard about it. The boss was at home. So he got a good hand, usually a pretty productive worker, a motivated worker, because I wanted to play golf really bad
Yeah.
and I wanted to play competitive golf. And your dad got you in competitive golf, same as mine did.
Yep, exactly. I remember he told the tennis pro at Shreveport Country Club, hands off, stay away from my son. He's going to be a golfer, not a tennis player. And I was like, oh, Dad, I kind of like tennis. He goes, no, you're golfing. All right.
Okay. Well, it worked out pretty well for you, Willie. You were the 1977 U.S. Junior champion.
Yeah.
You beat David Games, I think it was,
David
4 and
Games.
3.
Yeah.
What's your most vivid memory of that week? I know that's a long time ago, but I mean, it was a pretty big deal to win the U.S. Junior.
It was. I had some pretty hard matches. I played Jim Gallagher in one match. He was from Indiana growing up, and then later went to Tennessee. Won on the PGA Tour after that. But I played Corey Pavin in the semis, and Corey could really play then, and his career continued on, winning the U.S. Open later on. That match went 18 holes, and I played against Corey a few other times and beat him every time. And every time we start reminiscing about the olden days, that does come up in conversation. Some of those junior match play tournaments. But I had I qualified that week in Houston, Texas, and I qualified with two other kids, and we were putting that week just as kids do, just spending all day on the putting green. And one of them, one of the boys said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And James Bailey said, "I want to be a lawyer like my dad." And the other boy's name was Doug Supernaw. And Doug says, "I want to be a country western singer." We were like, "Well, can you sing?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm pretty good." Sure enough, he became a country western singer, and he had some big hits too. I don't know if you know that name.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
I know the name.
I said, "I want to be a golf pro." And so all three of us achieved what we wanted to do, which doesn't happen very often.
Are you talking about Jim Bailey that eventually played at Baylor and is a member at Houston
His
Country Club?
that his father,
His father. Okay.
yes, exactly. His
Wow.
son played at Baylor
Yep.
for
That.
you.
Yep. That's Patrick Bailey. Yep. That's for sure. Wow. Small
Snake.
world.
His name's Snake Bailey, the dad.
Oh yeah, Snake.
Yeah.
That's what he did. That's right. Wow. I did not know that until just now. That's crazy.
Finally, I told you something you didn't know.
Well, no, I'm telling you that when you said James Bailey, I wonder if that's Snake. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Wow. Small world. Well, so you win the U.S. Junior. That kind of puts you in a different stratosphere. I know college coaches were all over the place, as many as could be in those days. College recruiting was a little bit different, and I know Oklahoma State was all over you, but that's where your path and mine crossed. Was several months later at the Junior Orange Bowl in Coral Gables, Florida,
Yeah.
and you'd been invited to that tournament, obviously as being one of the best players in the country. But it had taken me 3 years. I had applied in my sophomore year, applied in my junior year, and both years rejected. My senior year, they finally said, "Yep, you get to play in the Junior Orange Bowl." And so, it was a big deal in those days. It was the
Yeah, it
only
was.
tournament over the winter. It was a big deal, and so without the internet, without any cell phones, without anything, I didn't know who I was going to be playing with until I got to Coral Gables, Biltmore. And I looked in the golf shop and there's my name in the pairings that week with Willie Wood. And I thought, oh my God,
All right.
I got to play with Willie Wood. Are you kidding me? And it kind of scared me. But as I recall, we both shot 75, 74 the first 2 days. Weather was not good at all for Coral Gables. Pretty rough, actually. What I remember is with 10 holes to play, I would have been in about fourth or fifth place. I shot 40 on the back nine, finished 10th. And I think Mark Calcavecchia won and you
He
were
did.
runner-up. Is
He
that
did.
right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, that's when our paths first crossed. Mike Holder was
Wow.
there watching, but he wasn't watching me. He was watching you. Talk about how Mike got you to Oklahoma State. How did he do that?
Well, I met him that week, and he said to me, "What grade are you in?" And I said, "I must have said junior. I think that was my junior year." He goes, "Good, you got time to grow." and it really ticked me off.
I bet that did.
Like, that's the only compliment you give me. But he,
Wow.
uh, and then later I moved to Tucson and I finished my junior and senior year of high school in Tucson, Arizona. But that's another story. But he spent some pretty good. We had quite a few phone calls. Back then that was a home landline phone call on Sunday night. Usually, I would get one from Coach Dave Williams from University of Houston, and I'd get one from Coach Holder. Sometimes the coach at UCLA would call me Saturday mornings. And that was really, I didn't have a lot to say on Saturday mornings. To Eddie Marins,
Oh yeah.
and I made 4 visits that year. I mean, leading up to my decision at Texas, BYU, Oklahoma State, and Houston. And after my visit to Oklahoma State, I kind of knew that's where I wanted to go. I had a blast.
That's
The recruiting trip was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but those are pretty powerful programs you were looking at. Obviously, Houston and Oklahoma State at the time were the top two. And, what I remember from that Orange Bowl when Mike Holder was watching you, you had a wooden shafted putter. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy, he's too good a player to play with his hickory
Yeah,
shafted. What are you doing?
I couldn't get it out of my bag. I putted pretty good with it, but it was very heavy. The greens down in Lake Charles were slow, so it helped that. But as time passed, I went to a ping answer and much lighter. It worked on fast greens much better. I still have it's called the Tadpole. I won the junior AM at Ohio State with it, and I still have it, but it can't be used. It's too heavy. It's
Yeah.
terribly heavy.
That's amazing. I remember that putter thinking, my gosh, what is he doing with that thing? But you made a lot of putts, so it's kind of hard to question
Yeah,
it.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, Coach Holder talked you into coming to Oklahoma State. Obviously, you had a great career, which we're going to talk about there in a second. But um, he said, and I've heard this said recently, and I've heard him say it earlier. He said Willie Wood was Tiger Woods before Tiger Woods was Tiger Woods. I know you've heard that.
I have. That's a
But
nice
I mean,
compliment.
it is a great compliment. And, you were the first dominant player of the AJGA tour. You were the first guy, I think you were their player of the year in 1978.
Yes.
And that's been going on that tour since then. And you were the first one. But I'm going to give you a stat you don't know. You
Okay.
ready? Only you and Phil Mickelson have done this. Just you and Phil. You were both AJGA player of the year. You were both the college player of the year. You were both a member of at least one NCAA championship team. You both won on the PGA Tour, and you have both won on the Champions Tour. You're the only two guys
Wow.
in history that can say all of those things. You didn't know that stat, did you?
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's pretty good right there, Willie. That's pretty good company.
Yes, it is. So I was Phil Mickelson before Phil Mickelson. You know.
Well, you really were.
Tiger's got a lot on both of us. He really does.
Yeah, he's got a lot on just about anybody. He's got about
Everybody, but Jack. Everybody but Jack.
That's about it. I mean, and really, he's got Jack in some areas, and Jack's got
Yeah.
him in others. But it's pretty amazing. So I wanted you to know that stat. Wanted my listeners to hear that stat. But you were a four-time All-American at Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State's had 10 or 15 of those guys that have been a four-time All-American. You were the Fred Haskins Award winner in '82, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. 82.
And you were on two national championship teams, 1980 and 1983. And you played for a legendary coach, Mike Holder. So your time at Oklahoma State is pretty iconic. I know that obviously I knew you from our, like I said, from our time at the Junior Orange Bowl and then your years at Oklahoma State. But when I got there, you were still coming up occasionally and practicing at Karsten Creek. And I remember thinking, gosh, this guy absolutely loves the game of golf.
I
I
do.
mean,
I
I mean,
do.
I don't think you've lost that to this day. Why in the world? And it was late '90s. You still had a full tour card. You'd won I think, on the PGA Tour the year before. So your game was great. You played well at Augusta that year. So you were still playing great. But I've never seen anybody that worked any harder than you did. And you were in your mid 30s.
Well, I'm 65 now. I played 18 holes today, had lunch, and went out and practiced after my round. I don't know when my next tournament is. And sometimes I'll go, why am I practicing the way I am? Because it's in my genes. It's just part of what I do and who I am to go hit some balls because maybe tomorrow I'll do something really special. I mean, I just really love the challenge of this game gives us, and it gives us a different challenge practically every day. And I will play golf tomorrow.
Well, I mean, but what I'm saying is if there's some college players right now that if they had your dedication and your love for the game, they would be an All-American and they'd be ready to play the PGA Tour. So I wish I could figure out how to infuse that into some of my players because if they understood what true passion and enthusiasm and love for the game of golf was, they just if they could just come and see you and talk to you, it's crazy. And here you are, 65, and you really don't have anything to practice for. Although I know
No,
you played in the Senior Open this year and two Champions Tour events. I think you finished 13th in
I,
one, did you
I,
not?
I did in the last one, Dick.
How does that not get you in the next week? Is it take?
A top 10 would have. I bogeyed the last hole.
Sorry to bring that
That's
up.
why I keep practicing, so I don't bogey the last hole.
Wow. But I mean, you still play really well, and you just told me you don't know what you're practicing for. You just love the game. You're going to go practice.
Yeah, yes.
Who'd you play
Uh,
with today?
I play with Mickey Tuttleton,
Hmm.
who play a Major League Baseball,
Yep.
and then Jeff Oakes, a neighbor of mine here and longtime friend, who
Jeff
you
played for
know.
me at Eben High School.
Yeah.
1983 Oklahoma State junior champion at Trosper Park.
Oh,
Great
is
guy.
that? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. He won the state junior in 1983. Be sure to tell Jeff I said, hey, when you
I,
talk to him
I
next.
will.
So you weren't a long hitter. In fact, you were pretty short, even by the standards of your day, right? I mean, you weren't a long hitter. I'm going to throw out some names that crossed your paths during your years on tour. Corey Pavin, who you've already mentioned, Scott Verplank, David Edwards, Doug Toole, Calvin Pete, Fred Funk, Jeff Sluman, David Toms, Mike Reed. Okay, I just named about 10 guys that all hit it in the ballpark of where you hit it, right?
Right. That's
Okay.
about right.
All right. So those guys were all hugely successful, like you were, on the tour and played long careers on the PGA Tour. Is there room for those guys in the game today and going forward? And if not, how could a young man who doesn't hit it very far mitigate or offset some of the disadvantage of being shorter?
You better be a good wedge player if you're not a very long hitter. And I think even the short hitters today hit it pretty darn long. Um, they just don't hit it super long like a DeChambeau and a Brooks Koepka and the longer hitters. And there's also a gap. Our gap, I guess maybe I averaged, I don't know, 255 or 60. Let's just say 260. But the longest hitter only averaged 280. I was
Mm-hmm.
only 20 behind.
Yep.
So if you're averaging 280 now, the other guys are averaging 315 or 320. You're 40 behind.
Mm.
And that's a big difference. That's three clubs. So you better have a good wedge game and roll it good. But I think kids nowadays are taught at an early age to swing harder at it. Don't. They're not trying to hit it in the screws, so to speak, like you and I were. You know, because the sweet spot was so small when we played, when we grew up. The club heads are bigger, the shafts are longer because they're lighter. They're not steel anymore, and they work out now at a young age. I wish my biggest regret is I wished I had lifted weights and worked out in college and early on in my 20s because I think I would have had a better chance at many golf courses. There's always golf courses that you can play, even if you are short. But if you're long, you can play them all. None of them. You can't say this one doesn't fit me, because you can always pull out a 2-iron off the tee or a 3-wood off the tee on some holes. But um, I really truly wished I had worked out more. But back then, the most you did was a push up or a sit up.
Yeah, he didn't do much in those days. And we mentioned all those players, and you said you averaged what, 255 in the ballpark?
Yeah, 255 or 60, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Last year on the PGA Tour, Brian Campbell, who played at University of Illinois for Mike Small, uh, he won twice on the tour last year,
Uh-huh.
and he only averages 278.
278.
So that is remarkably unusual for the modern day for a guy to be able to win on the tour and
Yeah.
get it that short. But he was 175th in driving distance on the PGA Tour
Wow.
and won twice. So I got to believe there's a place for the guy, but he better, like you said, be an incredible wedge player and be a great putter. And the guy who was the player of the year on the PGA Tour Americas last year and the Korn Ferry Tour this year, Johnny Kiefer, who played for me at Baylor, he hits it 330 right down the
Yes.
middle and puts it like you do and wedges it really well. I mean, he's got a nice recipe to play professional golf, I would think.
And did he finish? How did he do this year?
On well, he's going to play the
Oh,
PGA.
he's on the Americas. He's on
He
Americas.
was on
Okay.
he was on the PGA Tour Americas, and then he was Player of the Year on that tour in 24, and
Oh,
then he
all
was Player of
right.
the Year on the Korn Ferry this year. But he hits it so long and puts it well. I mean, I don't know. The modern day pro golfer is changing. And I'm going to ask the question again: is there a place for a guy that hits it shorter like you did? Do you think?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. There's a place there, because there's courses that they just can't play every course and go, okay, I've got a chance to win. Some of them you're going to play and they're going to go, I got to play really good to finish top 20. I got to play really good to finish top 20. And then there's some courses they'll get to and they go, ooh, I can win here. Well, they better make their hay on those, because there might be, of the 40 events, there may be 15 or 20 that they can say, and you better put that on your schedule. You better show up on a practice round for that one. Um, you know, Hilton Head. They haven't added any tees. I don't think they've been landlocked for a long time, and still the winning score is about the same all the time. It's not. They don't go super low there because there's rough, small greens, probably pretty firm if it doesn't rain.
And some
Uh,
wind, usually
and
wind.
yes, there is. So there is a place for a shorter hit. Yeah, not a non-bomber
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, you mentioned the ping answer earlier. Are you still putting with that, or do you have another putter in the bag?
Oh, I have another putter. I have a putter now with a face on it. What's it? An insert?
Yeah.
An insert that's an Odyssey. Um, the ball's gotten harder, and I felt like I needed something that was a little softer face to offset the hardness of the golf ball.
Yeah.
And I've gone to I used a TaylorMade for a long time, I've gone to mallets. Yeah, I used a Derby for a little while. I won twice with the Derby on the Champions Tour, which is a mallet. And I just use the Odyssey now. It's
You
pretty
know,
good.
if I was going to start the game again, it would be with a mallet putter for
Yeah.
sure. No way I'd putt with a blade. Just no
No,
chance.
no. How about the bullseyes we used in a cash in? Holy cow!
You
How
know,
did we do?
I think I know this stat. I'm not positive, but I think Bob Tway was the last guy to win with a bullseye on the tour.
I think he won Memorial, and that was
Yeah,
might have been that was about an 88 ish or
yeah,
90.
but I think he won in Canada after that.
Oh, after
Maybe
that,
I'm not sure. I do
yeah,
remember thinking Bob is the last guy to win with the bullseye.
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. You mentioned winning twice on the Champions Tour. I don't know if that was completely unexpected, but you won the Dick's Sporting Goods Open and the Pacific Links Hawaii Championship within a month. You won two events. What precipitated that renaissance in your game? I mean, because you were hot there for a few months. Where
I
did that come from?
uh, I got to. hitting it good and putting even better. I had to qualify that week on Monday, and I just played along. And I got in I was in the last group, but I was 2 shots behind John Houston, who was a big time front runner, and he holed it on the first hole for an eagle. So his 2-shot lead went to 4, but then he hit in the water on the next hole and went back to 2, and then he kind of struggled, and I played pretty consistent. I made a 35-footer on the last hole to force a playoff with Michael Allen, and I made par on 18, first playoff hole, and he hit in the water off the tee, made bogey. So I got my first win there, and then went to Seattle the next week and missed the playoff by a stroke. So I finished third at Seattle. And then I think we had 2 weeks off, and I went to Hawaii, just having a good time. And one thing led to another, and I birdied the last 2, and Bill Glasson bogeyed 18, and I won the tournament. I was like, "Oh, I can't believe it." Was kind of it was somewhat given to me, in my opinion, because Bill had it under control, and he stubbed his toe coming in.
It happens. We've all done it.
You darn right we have.
Yeah, you better believe it. Well, during that time, obviously, I was pretty excited watching it, thinking that is amazing that he's got this. I mean, it just kind of sparked a whole new career for you.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of pumped some life back into your game. But during that time, I was recruiting your son Hayden like big time. I mean, all over that kid. He took visits to Georgia, and he was all over the map. And I kept on thinking, how am I going to miss on Hayden Wood? I can't miss on Hayden Wood. And I had a few conversations with him, obviously, but with you on the phone. And I remember you saying, I'd love for him to come play for you, but he's going to make this decision on his own. What do you think finally turned it that got Hayden to Oklahoma State?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't think he was afraid to go there and play as my son. Um, he liked Georgia because of Chris Hack.
Mm-hmm. I like Georgia because of Chris Hack.
How could you not? That's right.
Yeah.
And then he just you also recruited some other teammates of his, Nick Heinen and
Sam Stevens.
They were buddies too, and that's big when you know the guys that you're going to spend 3 or 4 years with, 3 or 4 very important years with, and this guys that have the same goals and values and desires as you. So, and I think that's probably what did it, is the guys that he was going to be surrounded with, and then. We just let him make that decision for himself, though. Yeah, and I'm glad he stayed in state.
Yeah, I think it was good for him. And although I never got to coach him because I got let go and I went to Alabama and then on to Baylor, I did watch his career very closely. He just happened to be on probably the best team in the country for a few years. And his senior year, when they hosted the national championship at Karsten Creek, I think he was 6 or 7 man, and Sam Stevens was 6 or 7 man, and neither one of them could make the squad. Every person on that team has won on tours. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was a really good team. There were 10 guys at the time that could really play. I mean, the second team probably could have qualified through regionals and gotten there. I don't know if they'd have made match play, but let's just say they could have gotten to the national championship. But it was a good experience for them. The next year they went to the Blessings, and they won the medal portion by 31 strokes, and then lost to Texas 3-2 in the semifinals, which was heartbreaking. So I was there watching. I was there watching the year before too. But college golf is 4 years of team golf, and you're not going to get a lot of team golf after that. And it is so much fun and such a different animal, that it's the memories that you create and experience. You'll never get anything like that again. And I mean, you might get to play in a Ryder Cup. You might get to play in some kind of cup match for your club, but there's not much team golf after college. It's great. It's a great time.
Yeah, you Hayden told me to ask you about playing in the Walker Cup too with Brad Faxon. Said there might have been a story you might have gotten a little bit
Oh,
nervous there.
oh yeah. We were playing at Hoylake, 1983, and he and I were all set to play in our first match, alternate shot, and I was to tee off on the odds. So number one, he was on the evens. No big deal. Well, we get on the tee and we're the first group out, and they start playing the national anthem for American national anthem. Then they play the European "God Save the Queen," maybe.
Yep.
And I got a little bit choked up, and I got a little bit nervous. And I said, "Fax, you got to tee off." And he's like, "Wait, we have a plan." I go, "Well, we're going to scrap the plan. We'll beat these guys. Don't worry. You just tee off on one because I can't hit it right now." and I think we did win the first 4 holes, but only won like 3 and 2 or something like that. But it made for a good story, and uh, he hasn't let me forget it. He really hasn't.
Well, tell me, how could you have been so nervous? I mean, you were that nervous playing for your country. That's amazing.
I had never experienced that type of adrenaline rush because I was playing for my country. And before that, you never thought, well, maybe someday I'll play in the Olympics, because golf wasn't in the Olympics. This was as Olympic as it got for us back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was. Yeah, I was shaking in my boots, so to speak.
I'm glad to hear that, and that's not. I mean, everybody gets nervous, even the best.
Everybody gets nervous.
Absolutely. So playing with Chichi Rodriguez, Hayden said this was quite an experience. Neither one of you is playing that well, but do you have a story about Chichi?
I played with Chichi in the Masters when I was amateur in 82, and on Saturday, and he was wonderful. He was very, very nice to me. He knew my dad somehow. I'm not sure how they knew each other, but he was very, very nice. So 2 years later, I qualified and got my card in 83. So I'm on the tour in 84, and we're playing at the Bank of Boston in Worcester, Massachusetts. Playing on Sunday, both of us are not doing very well, and we're playing at holes that parallel each other. I'm going up 15, he's coming down 16, and he looks over at my standard bearer, my scoreboard, and he sees that he's beating me. And he says, "Hey, look, everybody, I'm beating Willie Wood. Willie's going to finish last. I'm not going to finish last. Hey, everyone." And he had a lot of people following. He had a couple hundred people. I mean, that's a lot back then.
Sure.
Especially when you're playing early. And he starts pointing at me, and he just kept on and kept on. I was so embarrassed that I was like, "Go, Chichi, just go. Get out of here. Please leave me alone." But yeah, that was Chichi, all right. He was very, very entertaining at any moment of the day. You should have heard him. You don't have to see him. He and Lee Trevino, when they got together, the jokes that flew back and forth between a Puerto Rican joke and a Mexican joke, it was priceless, some of the stuff that came out of their mouths. But those were some entertaining times. A lot of guys that had a lot of personalities on that.
Don't you think the tour could use some more Chichis and Lees? I mean,
so much people that can not just play great golf, but can entertain also. It would be special.
yeah, we need some more of that. One last story. Arnie at Augusta. I know you played with him in 97, maybe?
99.
99. Okay.
My last Masters, I got paired with he and Spider Miller
Mm-hmm.
on Thursday, Friday. And Thursday, I didn't talk very much. I was working real hard to try to play good. I'm playing with the king, and we tee off. Or I'm teeing off on number 2. On Friday, he comes and puts his arm around me, and he says, "Are you mad at me?" I said, "No, sir, I'm not mad." He goes, "Good. I thought you were mad." I said, "No, I'm just grinding, trying to make this cut." He goes, "Okay, come on, come on." He slaps me in the butt, come on, let's do it. So it goes around a couple more holes, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I better start talking to this man, the king. And we start talking about this and that, airplanes. He liked airplanes, and he liked pointing at the girl in the crowd. Oh, look at her, Willie. Okay. And so now I'm thinking, all right, heck with making the cut. Let's just talk with the king.
Okay.
And all 3 of us missed the cut. And I see him about 2 months later at a pro-am. And I went up and I reintroduced myself to him. And I said, "Hey, I just want you to know I was going through a divorce at the time, and I wasn't myself." And he says, Are you doing okay now?" I said, "Yes, I'm doing fine." He goes, "I knew there was something wrong. I'm glad you're doing good."
That was Arnie, huh?
That was Arnie. He truly cared about you or anybody. It didn't matter. He was a loving, caring man, and that's why he was the king. That's one of the reasons he was the king. We'll say he won a lot of golf tournaments that put him as the king.
Yeah, I think he won over 60 times.
Oh, he was great.
We were just at Southern Hills for the Clerico this past week, and I was telling the story to the guys that the very first major I ever attended as a kid, I was 10. It was at Southern Hills, PGA Championship, and Arnie had finished 3 times runner-up in that event already. Had never won, was the only one of the 4 majors he hadn't won, and Dave Stockton beat him that week. And I remember looking back on that, not anything against Dave Stockton, but you know, gosh, Arnie, that would have just capped his career off like nobody's business.
Yeah. And when I won Dick's in 2012, so this is 20 something years late, 30 years later. So he wrote me a letter. I got it framed over here. He wrote me a letter and congratulate me on winning my first champions event.
Did he really?
Yeah. Yeah. I got it in a frame.
Wow.
Yeah. He was something.
That's a very, very cool story. All those stories. I love the one with Chi-Chi. Did you finish last of the guys that made the cut?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I did. My check was probably about $300.
Okay.
In 1984, finishing, last in the tournament. I mean, after the cut, but before I got on tour, there were times when you could make the cut, play 72 holes, and not make a check.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, never got to experience that.
Yeah, back in the early days, like 50, 60 years ago, yeah, there was a certain amount of the people that made the cut that never made a dime.
Never made a dime.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I'm going to ask this question before we finish up, but if somebody asked me one time, they said, Jay Haas, how good a player was he? And I said, well, he played pro golf forever and he won on both tours in a big, big way. I said, I never played the PGA Tour, but every time I get a chance to ask a tour player this, how hard is it to maintain your card all those years and play at that level all those years? What's got to happen for that to happen? That's not easy, Willie.
That is definitely not easy. You got to stay healthy, because sometimes your body does break down, but you also have to be very, very good and talented. And he made, I don't know how many cuts he made in his career, but I think it's the most of anybody.
It is. He played in the Zurich Classic with Bill a few years back to try to make the last cut to set the record, and they did. They played very well. Yeah, good. People look at it. He never won a major, but you're saying this guy was unreal to play at that level all those years. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is. And
he's
one of the nicest guys in the world too.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, Ben Crenshaw, and Nick Price were 3 of the greatest guys. They just loved people, and They're always gracious and kind to people. It was great. It was terrific.
So another question for you. I've always considered that you the same. And I think everybody that's ever met Willie Wood, played golf with him, compete, you're the same. What's the juggling act you have of being a nice guy, being true to yourself, who you are, just a really good guy, and still being an assassin on the golf course? Because you are a competitor at heart. How do you juggle that?
Well, you got to keep things in perspective. That this is a game, and those people out there watching you are either people that paid to get in to watch, or they volunteered to work the tournament. And I told somebody recently, I said, you need to thank every volunteer you possibly come across for doing what they're doing. They are paying. Actually, most of them have to pay for buy shirts and it's not a free thing or you don't get paid to be a volunteer. You volunteer and you got to buy a uniform. So they're paying, but thank them and don't never jump down their throat because they say something stupid, because something dumb could come out of their mouth, but just laugh it off. I had a guy in Seattle. I hit a drive through the fairway and he's standing by my ball. I got it. I walk over there and it's a mushroom. That's right. I said, "Sir, that's a mushroom." And he goes, "Hot damn, it sure is." I said, "You had yourself some mushrooms before?" He goes, it was in Seattle, Washington. He had a long beard. He goes, "Yeah, I have." I go, "Okay, well, let's go find my ball, okay?" And we did. And we laughed about that for a long time. I'd seen the next day. I said, "Hey, found any mushrooms today?" I mean, you've got to keep things light. But you also know you got to be able to turn that off and go to, okay, let's focus on the shot. Forget that. Focus on the shot. Not the last shot you hit, and not just focus on the shot you're about to hit. And that's the important thing.
That's great. That's great. Well, you've always done a great job of mixing the two, juggling them together, and I've always appreciated the way you treat people. I noticed that when I was at Oklahoma State, the way you treated my wife, Pam, was always with so much respect. And she told me to tell you, when I told her I was going to be talking to you on this Zoom call, she told me to tell you, hey. So
thank you. Will I see her Sunday night?
She's not going to be there. She's struggling a little bit with some health issues, so she's not going to travel up. But I am looking forward to seeing you and
Andrew. Yeah.
It should be great. It should be a fun evening at Oklahoma City Golf and Country Club, and just thankful I get to go in the Hall of Fame with you, Willie.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. We'll see you Sunday.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.